It's just called a generic HD webcam. So the interesting thing about this is that it is C-mount. It came with this lens, 2.8 to 12 millimeter f1.4, decent sized front element. That's clearly multi-coated. In addition to this lens, I have another C-mount lens, 35 1.6. Okay, that was easy. That's very jankily, they epoxied it or something, but there is a coating on the whatever the heck they put on front of it. That's pretty cool. The goal with this thing is to have it as a back camera so that if I'm doing a Gundam build or something, I'll have a secondary viewport. Very easy. It's pretty neat. Got a quarter 20 on the bottom, but in my case, if I'm going to put it up there, this was $10 at Best Buy. They had a USB 3 one. They even had a few open box ones, so I probably would have paid around the same price. I went for the cheaper USB 2 one because I don't think this is USB 3 white connector. So Amazon had similar stuff, but it was all more expensive than AliExpress. It was $28.85 shipped. They have multiple types. This was the cheapest one I saw that seemed like a legit company. There's a 4 megapixel with a 6 millimeter lens, 8 megapixel with a 50 or a 5 to 50. Consider the size of the sensor when you're looking at this. Obviously, this thing is going to be manual focus, so in quite a few situations, it won't be a viable option. But I'm pretty sure for what I'm going to do with it as a stationary back cam, this is the one that I got. 4 megapixel HD, so it's 1080p. But it's actually 2560 by 1440 at 30 frames a second. So it is actually higher. It's not really HD then. And the sensor is f5253, meaning it's not a Sony sensor. I think that maybe the 8 megapixel one is. I don't really care as long as it looks decent. UVC 1.1. And the good thing about UVC is that it should just be plug and play. Beautiful training, video conference, online teaching. Oh, beauty training. I can't read, I guess. Okay, that person bought the 8 megapixel one. Low image quality. Well, we'll find out, I guess. Not much to the box. It's very generic. Did come with a manual thing. I've got multiple arms attached to a shelf, but then I also have one on this camera here. This is the Hawk Lock system from Small Rig. I made a video on this in the past, so obviously I'm gonna put that on here. So I'll first try it on the camera, and then I'll try it over there. Best Buy 12-foot USB 2 cable for $10. Not too bad. So I don't think I'm gonna have any issue with length. Hopefully the length of the cable isn't a problem. The quality looks decent. Obviously you can buy stuff like this pretty cheap on Amazon and probably AliExpress. All right, I'm going to plug this into a lower spec port, see if it works. Tripod connector, hopefully this is the right size. It looks the right size. 1/2.9 inch sensor, and then you can see the range here. I think it's a 24 to 70, something like that, in field of view equivalent. And you can see the ring here. There's 2 screws, so if you needed to adjust that for some reason, I assume you'd loosen those and the inner ring would be able to be adjusted. Zoom, aperture, and then also the focus. I'm going to put the Hawk Lock on here. This Hawk Lock system is very compact. I wouldn't say it's perfect, and they did send me these for the video a long time ago, but they have their uses. Besides these, I used some Ulanzi ones, which were also sent to me. Those are more robust, but they're bigger, of course. The way that I have this set up, I can't adjust the top camera. I can do a combination of aperture, but I can also adjust settings in OBS itself. Turn off automatic exposure. Whoa. Okay, that's all right. So that's weird. Change that to 60. See if that makes a difference. Interesting. So I undid the automatic exposure in the settings, but it's very, very odd. It really did not like that. Yeah, that's maximum aperture on the lens. That's 0 sharpness. It turns into ultimate sharpness. Wow. Okay, it's a bit quirky. That's white balance. What? Nothing about that looks like white balance. Gain control. Okay, that does not appear to work. Yeah, this clearly does not work how it should. Oh, it does have automatic exposure on. That's kind of a problem. There's this program that I use to save and load settings for webcams because they don't generally save settings. Maybe I can manually adjust it and basically create a profile. This is the setting file it generates, and I just changed this from -1 to 3. See if it works. So I run that, go Going to here, properties. Yeah, I don't think it's taking it. Still at -1. I mean, obviously it can do automatic exposure. Well, that's kind of a bust. Man, this thing is... Should I be surprised? It does nothing. Sharpen, scroll, scale, render delay, luma key, image mask. Is I can apply a LUT? I mean, I could potentially adjust it with one of those if I made one. It's not that they don't have white balance. There's no way to change the intensity of it. But I have to figure out like the perfect counter to the green. For a webcam, if the settings functioned, it looks pretty good to me. Just like the quality detail of it. They clearly did not implement UVC properly. See what the rolling shutter looks like. Sometimes these small cameras have really bad rolling shutter for some reason. But this one doesn't seem horrible. Not too bad. But obviously my skin tone is a little bit different. Even after trying to do something with it. As I mentioned, I have this, just lock it in. And that's as zoomed in as it gets. About right here. Do some Naruto. I don't know any of them. And then I would normally have this camera facing down, which is pretty easy. This thing here might be interesting to see what it looks like. Swap them. Actually, I think the minimum focus distance in this situation is not good enough. That's weird. Yeah, saturation works. Brightness appears to work. Ooh, the contrast has a strong adjustment to it. It's functional. And then the good camera's being used for most of it. The wider it is, the less the thing is probably going to try to mess with exposure. I could always buy a more expensive one that hopefully would have better setting support. So it kind of can work. I'm not thrilled about the auto exposure, but besides that, it's pretty cool, pretty functional as just a device that has exchangeable lenses. And the lens that it came with looks really nice from a quality standpoint. But the problem is settings. Some of them don't do anything remotely like what they should be doing. That was a quick look at this unusual C-mount camera. There's a ton of them out there. In this case, the SMTKEY. That's the actual brand apparently. I'm going to try to email them and see if I can get firmware, but it feels unlikely. These don't really have any support structure. If you're looking for something like a webcam that has a little bit of interesting functionality, maybe consider something like this. Just don't get one that's super generic off-brand. Look for one that hopefully has better firmware software support from it. But I really do like being able to change lenses. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed the video. Scott Photography Bonsai. Thanks.